Hey guys, out on the road today, wanted to get a few things off of my chest, talk about some of the things that God's taught me here in recent months that have really taken root and really began to make a big effect in my life. And so I want to share it in hopes that God would do this to a lot of us. I mean, just imagine if all of us kind of got onto a track of living in a cadence where transformation was occurring from the inside out, that we were becoming more and more and more free. Man, that's what I want to be a part of, doing that myself and sharing that in a way that others are encouraged or helped or strengthened and do it themselves. And so I can point back to something several months ago that happened to me, or a train of thought that I was on at the time, and I want to kind of share it. I hope it comes out well enough. But at the time, about 6 months ago, I was really caught up in this whole image-bearing capacity of humans, that we've been created in God's image, and what does that mean exactly? And not to go off on that, because that's a long conversation, but generally speaking, we're created in God's image, which means some things. And just to whittle it down to the essentials for what I have to say here, it has to do with the fact that we have a frontal lobe. Our brain and the frontal lobe sets us apart from every other animal. We have the capacity to step outside of ourselves, objectively look at what we have been doing, and then make changes. We can change. We can set a new course and make some alterations. You know, if we got a few errors in judgment we've been practicing habitually, we can shift those. Things. We can practice some new disciplines and change our lives. We can have a whole new life if we want it, and that's something that humans alone are able to do. Now, what's added to that is that you can envision, you can dream. The frontal lobe dreams. It imagines. Imagination is a huge part of that frontal lobe capacity. It can aim at a future that it wants, that it desires, and desires kicked in there. And then it can set a course of action to get there with perseverance, hard work, determination, discipline. All these things kind of coalesce into this image-bearing capacity of being able to create. Deuteronomy 30:19 is that verse in the Old Testament that says, "Hey, okay, here I lay life and death, blessing and curse before you, and heaven and hell are a testimony to this, that I lay these things at your feet, life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore you choose." And so God's saying, look, I'm protecting your right to choose. But that's that one thing. The power that is human is that God's created us to choose, and our choices matter. Our choices lead to something. Our choices have ripple effects. All the many choices you must choose every day, all day. And so I was on that course I was thinking about that a lot, along with the creation mandate, which is to multiply, to subdue, to have dominion over the earth. And so I had in my mind this incredible creation and the power of this planet, and that we were made to run it, to steward it, all its resources, all its capacities, every capacity we have within us as humans, and every capacity that's been put into the planet. And that's a lot, and I can't even begin to go into that because I don't know most of it. But I'm aware enough to know that there's things being developed that were placed here creationally, and transcendent principles that are just reality that we can tap into and understand and align ourselves with. And man, humans can do some stuff. I mean, look at what we've done. And so my passion more and more so has been, if Christians say they know the one who made all of it and gave us the ultimate purpose there anyway, we should know, we should be on the forefront of doing that well, living lives that are the best lives, most effective lives, and then utilizing what we know to care for and to develop and to utilize the planet to maximize benefits for all people. And so I was on that track, and so I really got caught up in wisdom. Like, wisdom is the thing. Wise choices make the difference. So if I'm a being of choice and I've got to choose, and that's part of the deal, and there's no way out of it, I mean, to not choose is a choice. And so we're stuck in this, and I'm all in, right? And you are too. You are all in this life. I mean, this is going to kill you. So you might as well choose well. You might as well seek out the greatest course of action you could possibly find and walk in it, right? I mean, that just makes sense to me. And so I was on this choice thing, and then I was on this wisdom thing, and I was like, okay, so if God has wisdom to give, because that's what the wisdom scriptures share, is that he says, hey, come to me, I'll share these things with you, then I want that. I'm going to seek that out. I want to know that. I want to walk in that. So I was looking at the wisdom scriptures quite a bit. I was reading in Proverbs primarily, and really studying it out, talking to the Lord about it. And Proverbs 8 really stuck with me. And I was reading about, in a certain translation, it's called the Passion Translation. It's a new translation that I really, really resonate with and like a lot. Brings a lot of good language to the surface, and I was reading that along with the King James simultaneously, back and forth. But the Passion Translation kind of brings to life this personified wisdom. And in Proverbs 8 especially, it talks about that you know, wisdom is a she, and that, you know, all through the scriptures it'll personify wisdom. But wisdom is personified as like the party animal of heaven. It's like this, and in Proverbs 8 it says that, you know, wisdom was there before the creation, and that wisdom was possessed by God, and then utilized in the creation itself, and that wisdom was somehow being used to create at the same time witnessing the creation and seeing the brilliance involved, and it's personified in terms of, and it's thrilled. Wisdom is dancing around, just thrilled at what is being seen and made, and the beauty of it, the complexity of it, the harmony of it, the awesomeness of it, and that it's this dancing personified woman, for lack of a better term, who's just having a great time enjoying God and what's being made. And that's what we're called into, that we get to know her wisdom and to be filled with choices that will add up to incredible effects in the lives of others. And so I was really caught up in that, and so I was wanting it. I was really asking for, oh God, please give me wisdom. I want wisdom. Lord, please, I want it. I'll read all this, and I was after wisdom, in other words. And I ran across a verse in Proverbs chapter 8, verse 13, that slapped me upside the head. And in the King James, it said it very matter-of-factly, but it had to do with saying, you'll get wisdom when you begin to hate. And this is what it says: when you begin to hate pride, arrogancy, the froward mouth, and the evil way. I think that's the whole thing that it says. When you begin to hate those things, then you'll get wisdom. And I was like, whoa, so it's like a prerequisite. I've got to get rid of all these things in me, and then as I get rid of all these things, wisdom will replace it. Okay, I got it. So I began to ask for that. I started asking that the Lord would help me to hate pride, arrogancy, a froward mouth, and the evil way. That's what I started asking for. And and man, things started happening, but it wasn't a great thing. It was one of those it hurts so good type of things, because I started seeing stuff, not good stuff, started showing up. It was the fire of God that began to show up on my life, and they were humiliating things, and it was happening all the time, coming from every angle, and I began to recognize, okay, this is what I'm asking for. God is burning off the chaff, the dead wood in my life, the things that must go. In other words, if I want to have nice furniture in my house, then all this junk has got to get out, because you can't have both. There's only so much space for certain things, and I'm full of pride, arrogancy, the froward mouth, and the evil way, and that's got to be burned out and removed before any of the wisdom that I would like to utilize instead, the furnishings of my inner life. If I want wisdom, I gotta purge, I gotta get rid of some of this stuff. And so that's the process that began, and it was painful, but I stuck with it, and I was like, God, I just trust you. I trust you to burn it off, to burn it out. I'm standing here, I'm gonna stare at it, I'm gonna stare it down, and I'm gonna say, you go, and I'm gonna let you, Father, burn it, because that's what it takes. The Father has to burn it, right? He has to burn it out. Typically, when you see that stuff, you want to ignore it, downplay it. You want to justify the way you feel and why you feel this way, on and on, those types of things, and so they stay. You never get rid of them. And so I wanted to get rid of them, and so I was going to stick with it. I was going to stick with it, and I was going to let it get burned out. And so that's what I was determined to do. So that's the process. And then I got introduced to this thought about forest fires, that these forest fires that get out of hand, the problem with them is that the underbrush has not burned off or been removed naturally, properly, through human intervention many times. These things build up in the forest, and then the certain scenarios come along, these dry periods come, and things get dangerous, and eventually, obviously, a spark gets set and sets that blaze off, and then you got this forest fire. And because these things haven't been burned off in time as they should have been, the fire can rage so hot that it will burn off the topsoil in those areas. It'll burn off all the topsoils, which ends up, it becomes a wasteland. It's not useful for anything then. Nothing can grow there. And so the other interesting thing about it was that certain trees they need a certain level of fire to burn so that they can release their seed properly, so they can reproduce. So in other words, if the natural course of growth and development is occurring and burning and the natural, when nature gets to have its way and we don't get in the way of it, things burn off as they should, and trees will give their seed off for the next generation, and a new crop of trees will come up, and the forest is renewed and restored in the way that it should be. Now, metaphorically, in a person's life, it's the same thing, because we have all of these things in us that they don't work. They're not effective. They need to be removed, except that we are afraid to face them for whatever reason. And so, let me take a turn in this video and say this, that the thing that I began to see and understand was that if I would be honest, if I would honestly ask God with a desire to know the answer, God, what are the things that I need to change that I can change? What are those things? And honestly want to receive an answer, because typically what happens is we don't want to do the little things. We think the little things are insignificant, and we're fixated and focused on some big thing in our life, some huge addiction or some massive offense to some other person or something like that, and we can't change it, we can't get anywhere with it because we're not asking the right question. What we need to know is, Father, what are the things that are out of alignment, that are not right? They're things that you have determined yourself you need to stop doing, and you need to change, and you have the power to change them. That's the key there. You not only do you know that you should change this, or you should stop this behavior and do something else, but that you can do it. So I'm not talking about the things that you know you should change but you can't. I'm talking about the things that you know you should change and you can, but maybe you've determined that they're too little a thing. You know, for example, I'll give you an example of I have a tendency to keep a junky car. You know, and it's one of those things I've kind of lived with through the years. And what I do is I get so focused in on the big things that are wrong in my life, and I'm fixated on them, that I let the little thing of the clean car go by the wayside, and I say, oh, that's not important, who cares, it's a junky car, big deal. But it's something that I could clean up and make it orderly and keep, because a lot of times I lose stuff in here. I need to get into the house, it's under a bunch of junk, you know, and I can't find it. It's just more clutter that I have to deal with, and it's a small thing though, so it's easy for me to justify, who cares, I got a junky car, big deal. When I need this stuff, I'll look through it and find it. I've found in life that if I will clean up my car, which is a little thing, but if I'll clean it up, I'll straighten that part of my life up. I can do that. That's not something that's outside of my abilities to do it. It's just a matter of deciding to do it. And if I decide to do it though, it straightens my life up a little bit more. And as I keep it clean and I practice that new discipline, it's a new discipline, it's a new habit, it's something I didn't used to do. It straightens up my life a little bit. I see a little bit more clearly everything else, and I'm empowered with sort of a new momentum to see something else around my life that needs to be tended to. And so then I'm empowered to go do that, tend to that. And as I go and do that next thing and begin to work on that level, I've got these levels begin to build. And all of a sudden I'm building. And then I find that, okay, now I've all of a sudden become a person that can really put a dent in one of these big problems that I've seen as a daunting thing that I can't change. I've tried to change it, I can't change it. And the reason why I can't change it is that I'm refusing to do the little things that are like, get stacked up and that strengthen you to the degree that you can do the big thing. So it's a big trick to not look low enough and be humble enough to do the little things and just clean your room. Just clean your room up. Clean around you, get the spaces around you, tend to the things that you can do. And some of you are like clean freaks, so this is not going to work for you. There's other things you've got to do that you can do, and you need to ask the Lord honestly, what are those things that I can do? I'll do anything. I'll do the littlest thing possible. I'll work on the littlest of things. And you go do it, and do it consistently, and let it strengthen you and get you to a place where you're able to step up to the next stage of development and grow. You know, life is about the little things, and it's really, if we're living a life of a lot of errors in judgment practiced over and over and over, those errors in judgment are accruing exponentially, and they're going to poison your heart, poison your vision, cloud you, keep you asleep to a greater life, to the better life, to the higher life. And you've got to start small and practice new disciplines and then build upon that. It's because it's the little things that we do habitually every day. Y'all know that your habits are your values manifested. Your habit patterns will reveal to you and the world what you truly value. And so you've got to make sure that first of all, you're lined up with transcendent principles, that things that they are what they are. There are transcendent things. For instance, it matters if you lie. Lying or telling the truth is a big deal because it's worked into the fabric of reality, of the world that we live in. It's transcendent. It's beyond us. It's above us. You've got to line yourself up with that and how you live. And you need to value the truth, in other words. So there's your value. Now you practice it daily. You don't lie, or at least tell the truth, or at least don't lie. Now that can be hard to do sometimes, but you begin to live that out habitually. You're practicing the truth, that you value the fact that truth matters, and so you're going to live forthrightly and you're going to work on it. You're going to live that way. It's what you do. It's how you are. It's how you do things. And as you do the littlest of things, those new disciplines you're practicing are going to give you new vision, new sight, new strength, new capacity to do the next level thing. And then you just repeat that on and on and on. You keep looking for the next little thing that you can get under your belt, those things you can do. And before long, you're going to be able to step to the plate in those areas in the past that you couldn't do. That big addiction, that big problem, that big offense, that issue that's made you a victim through the years. All of a sudden, you're going to be able to tackle that, and but it's going to be because you practiced doing the thing that has presented itself to you today that you could tend to, and you have the power to tend to it, and you did it. And you got a win behind you, and then you look for something else. You get that under your belt, you begin to live in a habitual fashion with that thing under your belt, and you look for the next thing and you add to it. And then you look for the next thing and you add to it. And you look for the next thing and you add to it. That's the way you build in life. And so to get back to wisdom, that is wisdom. And if you will begin to ask for hatred towards pride, arrogancy, the froward mouth, and the evil way, God will show it to you. And then you look at the littlest of things and the ones you can deal with, and deal with them. Change them. I'm not talking about the big things. I'm talking about the littlest of things. But still, be ready to face everything down. Just be ready to face things with the Lord so that He can fill you with the strength to transcend the things that He's bringing to you one at a time. And I promise you, if you begin to live that way, you're going to begin to have a clarity about life. You're going to begin to know wisdom, and you're going to begin to have shaped a life one day at a time, one action at a time, that looks more and more and more like God. And you're going to be alleviated from an enormous amount of suffering that you're dealing with today. You're going to be buoyed by God's life in you and His love and His joy. You're going to start feeling it. You're going to get rid of the dead wood, the chaff, and let Him burn it out. It is the life that God paid the price on the cross so that we could live. He paid that price so we could go to heaven, yes, but we're not there yet. So what we have to do is create heaven here in the habit patterns, in the life of wisdom. Because you're either creating, listen guys, we are creators, and you're either creating some level of hell or some level of heaven right here, right now. That is the God's honest truth. And whatever you're creating, you've got to live in. You ever heard that? You've made your bed, now you're going to have to sleep in it, or something like that. It's the truth. So decide to be living out the habit patterns of heaven, and do the ones that you can do. Because if you'll do the ones you can do today, you'll do the ones you couldn't do yesterday, but all of a sudden you found yourself able to do. So that's my word of wisdom today. I've been kind of living by that. God's been leading me through that. Make it your prayer to hate the pride, arrogancy, the evil way, and the froward mouth, and then be filled with wisdom and do the littlest of things day unto day unto day. You'll be living a life that gets brighter and brighter and brighter, I promise you. So bless you guys. I love you. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.